Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with lesson number 6 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're going to learn to program in Python or you're going to die trying. What I'm going to need you to do is pour yourself a nice strong cup of black coffee. Strong black coffee, no sugar, no sweeteners, no cream, none needed. Now, as you're getting your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to you guys that are helping me out over at Patreon. It is your encouragement and your support that keeps this great content coming. You guys that are not helping out yet, think about looking in the description down below. There is a link over to my Patreon account. Think about hopping on over there and hooking a brother up. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and let's talk about what we are going to learn today. We're learning Python. Last week we installed the most excellent Visual Studio Code that's a better integrated development environment and lets us learn Python and lets us start coding in a way that we can stay much more organized. So I really like that. So let's go on over and let's call up Visual Studio Code. We just go to the lower left in Windows and type in Visual, and that's enough. We see it pop up here, and then we can open that up. And one of the things that you see happen when you open it up, it's kind of neat that it sort of starts off where it fires it up. Let's see. Okay. It sort of fires it up where you had left off last week, where you left off the last time that you used it. It kind of comes back there, which I think is kind of neat. Now, I'm going to try to get these sizes good where you can see them. You see, I always want to get the sizes of my fonts where it's easy for you to follow what I'm doing. But at the same time, if I make them too big, they sort of go off the edge of the page. So that looks pretty good. You guys leave me feedback down below. Can you see that? Is it readable? Are you able to follow along pretty well? Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to learn a little bit more about Python, and what we're going to learn is how to do if statements and conditionals. Now, most of you guys are probably coming here from my Python or from my Arduino series of lessons. And if you did the Arduino lessons, you already kind of know the concept of an if statement. It's a block of code that will only be executed if some condition is true. Okay, and that is sort of the same thing in Python. It's just the syntax is a little different. Now, if you haven't done the Arduino series of lessons, that's okay. I'll sort of explain it to you from scratch. But what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to start another program. We've got the hello world here from last week. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And then remember, we are working in this folder called Python files, and I'm going to come over for a new file. Again, be careful that you're not clicking new folder. You want a new file. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it if statements.py. The .py is important. And again, just a reminder, never put a space in a file name. Do you see what I did? Let me see if I can kind of zoom in a little bit. You see I use the bumpy font where IF and then the next word is statement, so I make the S uppercase, and that is kind of a cool way to make things both readable and to not have spaces in there. And now I click enter and boom, I have a fresh new program to write here. So this is what a conditional does. A conditional or an if statement executes a set of code or a group of lines of code only if some condition is true. Now, what are the conditions that we could use for comparisons? Well, you could do something if two things are equal, and to check if two things are equal, it is equal, not one equal. So if I want to say if x equals 7, I would say if x equals 7. If you just say if x equals 7, you know what it's going to do? It's going to make x equal 7. And so this is one of the #1 coding errors that I find in the students that I'm working with individually. They do if statements with a single equal, and it's a really hard problem to find. But if you want to see if two things are equal, you would say if equal equal. Okay, you can also see if besides if they're equal, you can also check if they're not equal. That is exclamation equal. So that exclamation is not equal. So you can either have equal equal to check if they're equal, or exclamation equal to see if they're not equal. You can see if something is less than something else, or if something is greater than something else. Do you guys know these less than or greater than? A lot of times people confuse them, but you see how it starts little, it starts closed in little and gets bigger, so little less than, or like this greater than. Okay, so a conditional you can do is equal equal, see if they're equal. It is not equal, or you could say if something is less than something else, if something is greater than something else. You can also do less than or equal. You can also do greater than or equal. And there's a few other conditionals, but those are the ones that will take care of you about 90% of the time. So let's write a little program here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's input a color, and then let's see if that color is red. Okay, so I'm going to start by inputting my color. We'll just say my color, okay, is equal to input. And what are we going to input? Please enter your color. And I think I'm going to need to make this a little smaller. Okay, can you guys still read that? I hope you can. So I'm going to say my color input, please input your color. Now if I just do input here, it's going to input it as a string, but that's okay because my color, the color is going to be a string. All right, so that kind of makes sense to just leave it like that. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to say if, and notice it's lowercase if, and it lights up because Python recognized that. And then I always like to put my conditionals inside of parentheses. And so if my color equal, and then the string red. Okay, now this is what you have to see here. Okay, this is what you have to see. You can't compare my color to just red, because if you did that, it would be looking for the variable red. So when I put it in quotes, I'm going to compare the variable my color to the string red. All right, now to start the if clause, you put a colon. And this is another mistake that I see a lot of times. If you don't put the colon at the end of the if statement, it is going to get goofed up. Now, everything below this that is tabbed over, do you see when I came down here, it automatically tabbed? Everything that all the lines of code that I put that are tabbed in, those are going to be part of the if statement. How do I end the if statement? Well, I come back over here, and the first line of code that is not indented is not going to be in that if statement. Now, if you remember in Arduino, you start your if clause with an open curly and you end it with an end curly. Okay, an open curly and a closed curly bracket. But Python keeps track of the clause by using indentation. This line of code, hello, would not be in the if statement. This line of code, hello, would be in the if statement. And so if we want lots of lines of code, we just keep, as long as we are indented, all that would be in the if statement, then this not in if statement. So this would be the first line of code that would not be in the if statement, if that makes sense. Okay, so we want to see if our color is red. So I'm going to say if my color equal red, then I'm going to print your color. Better put my little quote there. I'm going to put your color is red. Okay, now notice that I'm not putting colons inside here. The only colon is to start the if clause. Okay, so I'm going to print your color is red. Now I'm going to say if, and then my color is not equal, the string red, then what am I going to do? Print your color is not, I'm going to emphasize it, not red, like that. Okay, and so now let's run this program and let's see what happens. Okay, down here you see it is asking me for my color. Now I want you just to remind you, you always need to click there to make sure that it's actually looking there for your input. So put your cursor there, and then I'm going to say red. What would I just get a bad grade for? What would I get a bad grade for? I didn't format that to leave a space or a colon, so I need to fix that up here in a minute, all right? And so now I am going to come down, and it says your color is red. Now what if, and then it's also, let me get further out of your way here to make sure that you can see this, okay? So now let's run it again up here, and it says please enter your color, and I will say blue, and it says your color is not red. Boom. Okay, congratulations guys, you have written your first if statement in Python. Now I'm going to make this a little smaller, and I'm going to come back up here, and I should have come and done something like this to make it formatted a little bit nicer, put a colon and a space, and that way when I answer the question it doesn't jam my answer right into the question. So let's try this again. So I'm going to come over here, and please enter your color. I'm going to say, and you see I didn't click there, I'm going to say red, and it says your color is red. Boom. Okay, and now I'm going to run it again, and it says what is your color? What is that? Let me kill that. I got an unexpected result. Oh, I put, you know, when I put R earlier without clicking my cursor there, it put the R up in the program, so you can see not to make that mistake. Okay, let's run it again. And we come down here. Now I'm going to click to say put my answer there, and I'm going to say red, and it says your color is red. And now you see how much nicer that was formatted. We're going to come over here, run it again, and then I'm going to say my color is blue, and it says your color is not red. Okay, so that's actually working kind of nice. And let's play around. Let's write some more simple code here. Let's do one where we're going to compare our number to 7. Okay, let's compare our number to 7. So here, instead of saying my color, I need to say my what? Number. My number. And then we're going to input a number, so what do I need to do? If I just input a number, it's going to input it as a what? It's going to input it as a string. So I got to make it a number by floating the input. So I'm going to say float of input, and I'm going to come over here, and you guys can see that, and I need to close the parentheses, so I have 1, 2 open parentheses, 1, 2 close parentheses, and I'm going to say please enter, I'm going to say instead of enter, please input your number. Okay, and then I'm going to say if my number is equal to equal. Now 7, would I put 7 in quotes? No, because 7 is a number, and I wouldn't want to compare the number 7 to the character 7. So what would I do here? I would put a 7 and say your number is 7. And then I could come here and say if my number is not equal to 7, then say your number is not 7. Okay, and let me come back up here a little bigger so you can see me. Okay, so let's run this. It's just going to see if the number is 7 or not. Please input your number, and I'm going to make it a little bigger down here. Okay, please You know what I did? I didn't click down here, and so what did it do? It typed it there. So I'm going to backspace over that and then come back down here and then put in the 7. Please input your number. It says your number is 7. Okay, very good. Now I'm going to run the program again. Please input your number, and I'm going to put 6, and it says your number is not 7. Boom. Okay, so you see we're doing some simple comparisons now. But you know, with strings, you kind of do it's either equal or it's not equal to, but there's a lot more interesting stuff that we can do when we're doing numbers. And so let's just sort of compare our number that we enter with 7. So what we could do here is we still are inputting, and we're still inputting my number, and then we're going to say if my number equals 7, we're going to print your number as 7. But how about we say if my number is less than 7, then I'm going to say your number is less than 7. Okay, and then what I can do here is I can say if my number is greater than 7, if my number is greater than 7, then I put a colon here and then say print your number is greater. Your number is greater than 7, like that. That's pretty neat, I think. Okay, and so let's go ahead and take a look at this. We are inputting the number. We're comparing it if it's equal to 7, less than 7, greater than 7. So let's run this thing. Okay, please input your number, and I'm going to get this a little easier to read here. Please input your number. I'm going to say 3, and it says your number is less than 7. Then I'm going to go again, and my number is going to be 4, and your number is less than 7. Okay, I'm going to come in. Please input your number, and I'm going to put 7. Your number is 7. And then let's run it again, and I'm going to say please input your number, and I'm going to say 14, and it says your number is greater than 7. Boom. Okay, so this is pretty cool stuff, and this is working. So we've seen how to do equal is equal is the condition. Exclamation equal is not equal. We can do less than, we can do greater than, or we can we can do less than equal or greater than equal as well. And those are the big ones. And so that is kind of a cool program there. Okay, I'm going to give you your homework assignment, and then you need to pause the video and you need to work this out on your own. Now, guys, I was trying to think maybe I should do it like a separate video and then release the solution a week later, but then you guys would have to wait all week for that. And so I don't want to make you do that. But what I got to tell you, man, you're never going to learn to code if you sit and are just typing in the keyboard as you're watching me do it. The only way that you're going to learn to code is if you do things on your own without looking at what I'm doing. And then only if you really, 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 really get stuck, look at my solution. But you should be able to write this program in about 5 minutes or under. But if you can't, you need to spend at least an hour on it trying to figure it out before you come and look at my solutions. Now, I will give you a hint. I have taught you everything that you need to know in order to do this program. I've taught you everything that you need to know in order to do this program. But what I will tell you is that some of the stuff maybe I mentioned in one of those earlier lessons, you've got to remember that in order to do this program. So if you get stuck, you might go back and watch lesson number 1 or 2 again, okay? Because there was some stuff in there that will allow you to do this. But what you got to see is that you can't just code and forget, code and forget, code and forget. You got to take the stuff that I'm teaching you and you got to put it in a toolkit. And then when I give you a problem, you got to look in your toolkit and you got to get that tool out. And maybe I didn't talk about the tool that you need to solve today's homework today. Maybe it's one of those older tools that I gave you. Okay. Pause this and then, or let me give you the homework assignment. What the homework assignment is that go and get a number from the user and then tell the user whether his number is even or odd and say you have entered an even number or you have entered an odd number. That is your homework. Pause the video, go do the homework, and then come back and I'll show you my solution. Okay, guys, welcome back. How many of you were able to do this homework on your own, and how many of you folded up like a cheap Walmart lawn chair? How many of you folded up like a cheap Walmart lawn chair? How many of you got it done? How many of you ran from the room crying like a little child? How many of you actually got it figured out? Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and I am going to create a new program. So I will come here and I will call this even odd.py. All right, fresh new program. I'm going to come over here and close this if statement one because I don't like to have a bunch of windows open in this particular case. And let's do a little bit of Windows management. I think you ought to be able to see that. So what was the assignment? You need to get a number from the user. So that is pretty easy. So I'm going to say my number is equal to, and then we're getting a number. So what do we better do? We better float it, because if we don't, it will enter it as a string. So we need to float. And then what do we need to float? We need to float input. And then what do we want to input? We've got to put our prompt here. And so this is going to be, please input your number. Always say please. Let's be polite. There's way too much rudeness out there. Let's program politely, okay? And then I'm going to put the colon and a space so that it'll be nicely formatted. Then I'm going to move past my open, or that apostrophe that is ending my string. And then this closes my input, and then that closes my float. And so you notice when I opened a parenthesis, it already closed the parenthesis for me. And so I've got two close parentheses, and I have 1, 2 open parentheses. So all of those look like they're going to be balanced. All right. Now what I want to figure out is, is that number even or odd? How many of you guys figured this out? How many of you figured it out? Okay, remember, I think it was lesson 1. I taught you the most excellent what operator? The mod operator. And what does mod do? Mod returns the remainder from one number divided by another number. And so I can say remainder is equal to what? My number, and then mod what? 2. Okay? So now I want you to think about it. Even numbers, when they're divided by 2, what is the remainder? 0. Odd numbers, when they are modded by 2, what is the remainder? 1. Okay, do you see? You do the mod function, and then if you mod it 2, if the remainder is 0, you got yourself an even number. If the mod is 1, you got yourself an odd number. All right. Now, also what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I think this will do it. Okay, I think this will do it. All right, so what am I going to do? I'm going to say if what? Rem, because what I want to look at is that remainder. If rem equal 0, if rem equal 0, then I put my colon, and then I'm going to say print you, and this is quite annoying, you have an even number. And then I want to show you, look, I can say, please play again. All right, I'm just showing you that this is also going to be in this if clause because it is indented. All right, but now I want to do the other if statement. It should not be inside this if statement. It should be the next line of code after you execute that if statement. So this will be if rem equal 1, then what do you have? Print you have an odd number, and you have an odd number, and then I'll do another print here, and then say, please play again, like that. All right, does that look good? Okay, let's come up here and let's play this game. All right, so I'll come up here and I need to get out of your way like that. All right. Okay, so what does it want? It says, please input your number. I'm going to put a 7. And I didn't. I did what I warned you guys not to do. I didn't click here first. Okay, so let's put in 7. You have an odd number. Boom. Please play again. Yeah, I'll play that game again. Okay, please input your number. 4. You have an even number. Boom. Please play again. And you know, guys, one of the things that I'll just give you as a tip, most programmers do not test their code enough. Okay, so you notice how we've done really easy things like 2 positive numbers. We better make sure that it works for negative numbers too. All right. So please input your number. What if I say -4? It says you have an even number. That looks good. And then I'm going to go like this and say, please input your number. I'm going to say -7. You have an odd number. Boom. All right. Please play again. Another one you might just always check is kind of like a special case like 0. And then it says, please input your number, and 0. It says you have an even number. I don't know if mathematicians would really agree that 0 is even or odd, but it is when modded by 2. It does give you not a remainder. So we're going to go with 0 being an even number. Okay, guys, this has been a lot of fun. So what we've learned this time is we've learned about how to write if statements. And we've learned the conditionals that go in them. And you can look up, there are some other conditionals besides just, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, greater than, less than, equal, equal, and not equal. There's some other ones, but these are the ones that you're going to use most of the time. And you've kind of gotten a good feel for it in this lesson. All right, what we're going to do next time is we're going to look at compound conditional statements, and that is where you're looking at more than one condition. And then with that, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be sort of having an and connector between the conditions, or an or connector. And so we're going to kind of learn the difference between ands and ors, and then we're going to do compound conditional statements. And then you will be in pretty good shape to really understand what is going on with if statements in Python. Hey guys, I hope you're having as much fun taking these lessons as I'm having making them. Again, I'm starting out building a foundation, and we're going to end up doing some pretty cool stuff with Python. We're going to connect Python up to an Arduino, and then we're going to be interacting with the real world in Python through the Arduino. We're going to learn a lot of cool stuff, but I am starting with the absolute basics. If you are an expert, don't get mad that I'm starting with the basics. You can skip through to more advanced lessons, but I want to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind. If you guys like this lesson, be sure to give us a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed already, make sure you click that subscribe button, and when you do, make sure to ring that that bell so you'll get notifications when we have new videos coming out. And as always, I really appreciate if you will share this video with others. Again, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.